I mean, there's an incredible miraculousness to us being here. And we've forgotten, we forget. Because the world is, you know, the world that we are born into teaches us such a strong message of ourselves. And because we're so young and so innocent, we haven't not got a clue. And here's the mother, and here's the father, each with their own. I don't know about your parents, but mine, each had their own wound that they were unable to face. They did the best that they could under the circumstances, which if we could actually walk with that as a fundamental truth, would save a lot of problems. They did the best that they could. They were doing the best that they could, and here I am, done. But no, we're so hooked in to them that it actually perpetuates, and it perpetuates, and kind of so many people become wounded, defined by the momentum of the family, that even though, you know, as happens, we leave home, those of us who still have a family at a certain age, and this still applies to those who don't actually have, you know, the nuclear family still existent, who are born into foster parents or children's homes. You know, hard business to be born into those. But then we leave home. We think, oh my God, we've escaped or we've moved on. But no, we're still wearing short pants. Still wearing the short pants because we carry them around, because the imprints and the ruts and the definition of us, because all we've learned is us in the world. Well, if I had to barter for love in the family, because I wouldn't get this or I wouldn't get that, or I was told to be so good, or I was told I was so bad, you know, then obviously we're not going to just, you know, throw off that shroud as soon as we leave home at 17, 18, 19, whatever years old. That's where the problem is. We take it with us. So we carry all that ancestry around till we get to therapy or addiction. I mean, what is addiction? So much of addiction is its roots. And most of us are addicted and have been addicted in some kind of way to something, however small it is, addicted to the seeking of love, because we're addicted to the seeking of wholeness, because we forgot it, because we are imprinted so much as being conditional. Seems to be the human experience that repeats itself over and over and over again. And therapy is, you know, the egoic, on the egoic level, is the egoic attempt to fix that problem of not feeling loved. And it might work and it might do some things, but still not really. So we come to spirituality, so many people, and this is a good thing, not woo-woo spirituality, but hardcore spirituality that says exactly what we say. Am I going to be defined by what I was told I am, or the conditionality of the ancestral burden? Am I going to be defined by that? And if not, then what? If not, what? If not, who am I? My God, that's because you don't get to unravel then what without, in my humble experience as spending that time in the shamanic camp, you don't get to unravel to be the one where the buck stops. And yeah, this is the attempt in a way to be the one where the buck stops, where the definitions of us come to an end and we become self-defining, as that is our authority. You know, I talk about authority. Our authority is to define ourselves, not as an entity or an egoic thing, but to define ourselves as whatever we choose: consciousness, openness, love, presence, God. But we don't get to do that in this shamanic thing without, I somehow believe this in the mysteries of the way of things, without every single ancestor who didn't have that capacity, who didn't have that opportunity, who didn't have that blessing, or didn't have that will looking on. Because everybody wants it, whether they know it. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants to come home. Everybody and everything wants to come home somehow. So we have this almost like this entire ancestralness playing itself out through us. It's a big responsibility, not a moral responsibility, or any responsibility that means we have to do anything other than the thing that we're doing. But it is big, which is why I think it's so difficult to realize and stay rooted in one's true nature as love, and which is why, as I said earlier, you can have the experience and be open when you're on your own or in nature or anything, and then you go back to the family and whoosh, there it is. Bam, it triggers you so quickly for the reasons that I've just kind of loosely talked about. Because the density of it comes from the past as well as in the present. Excuse me. I mean, if it was just the present, it would be enough. But wow, it also comes from the past. How beautiful is that? I mean, how beautiful is that? In my heart of hearts, somewhere in this mysterious being called Kavi, believe that we're connected through that very ancestry to the beginning of something. To the beginning of something. And I'm not a particular fan of the Adam and Eve story as being two individuals who then proliferated the human race, but as a mythological story, an archetypal story, and something mysterious. I think we're connected to the beginning of the human experience on levels that we don't really understand. And the subtleties and the subtleties that we're carrying around in our memories, tiny little fragrances of it. You know, that's why the old fables and the old stories, and even the Adam and Eve, the mystery of the Adam and Eve myth actually speaks to us on so many different levels. If we can untangle all of the moral superiority or the, you know, some of the more ugly interpretations, and we were able to see some of the things that we carry in that story, we've actually got something really interesting going on. And it's an ancient story. Who knows where it came from? What does it speak to? It speaks to something deep inside us, deeply, deeply inside us. And you know, so the mystery of who we are is alive in each of us profoundly. profoundly. And we can't see it because we're so caught up in being triggered by the entanglements that we still carry around. And I let go of mine. I let go of mine. My mother, it was easier because she became so sick and so ill and so defeated and so broken that to perpetuate any resentment or anger or anything other than the deepest sorrow and the deepest compassion for her, would have been cruel. So my relationship with my mother became a relationship where I released her to be her loving, as much. I released her into love while she was alive, and that was a great one. My father was a bit of a different story because he was an old bastard. And so, but eventually I did enough work and I realized that it was incumbent upon me to let him go, not incumbent upon him to let me go. It was I had the responsibility, not him. And that was 15 years ago or so. And it was I drove across the country and I said, I'm that's it. We're done. We're done in the sense that I'm carrying you around and I'm still expecting any sort of behavioral change from you. I don't expect anything from you. So you can do as you please, and you must do as your inner calling, as your inner authority calls you. And there was such a freedom and a sort of rebalancing in a moment of the energies, and he became small and endlessly burdened by his stuff, and I became free and quite grown up in a sense. And it was amazing. It was done. These constellations, the constellation of the family, and my family split up in 1977. And there I was still in 1997 and the year 2000, still carrying it on, still playing it out, still trying to seek some resolution in it. It was just ridiculous, but I did it. So since then, I've become very respectful of how the family lives in us and how we live in the family, and how in order to really be with the family, whatever that might mean to us, we have to leave and then we have to go back. We leave and go back. Maybe. Not for everybody. But there's a great power in finding our own authority. And just to stop being indebted so much, where we have to modify behavior. So, and I will read one poem and then I want to speak to you guys. Awakening is the end of ancestral burden. Each of us is the culmination of our ancestry and our own unique individuation. Resolving the wounds that have been embedded in us from generations of unconscious avoidance and the need for survival each generation carried is easily overlooked in the desire for awakening, but must not be neglected. We are where the buck of generational trauma stops. Healing the ancestral traumatic patterns brings its own liberation, and somehow, mysteriously, it energetically liberates the past. It frees the ghosts and paralyzed energies. It returns everything to the equality of love. It's all patterns playing out over time. And now the pattern has become you and me. When everything comes home within you, it all comes home to an open heart, resolved into tenderness, returned to innocence. It becomes love, and you become love. It sounds elevated and unreachable, but it's not. It is very human. It is nature's pure intelligence seeking to resolve itself through you, as you.